Good evening. Tonight's episode of QI is even more ridiculous than usual, partly because ridiculous is our theme, and partly because we're filming in March 2020 without an audience because of the coronavirus outbreak. So bear with us as we bring you a show replete with ridiculous riddles. Ridiculous episode of QI with the absurd Holly Walsh, the preposterous Maisie Adam, the ludicrous David Mitchell, and, no, but seriously, Alan Davis. And their buzzers are a right laugh. Holly goes. Maisie goes. David goes. And Alan goes. Extra point, who's that?
Jimmy Carr.
Oh. Is it a fox on heat?
No point in saying anything amusing. There's no one to hear it.
OK.
Jimmy Carr, that's a factual answer.
You get an extra point.
Thank you.
What is the funny thing about not having an audience?
That exact noise.
That noise, that silence.
That
I mean,
silence.
it's a sort of interesting experiment.
I mean, I've definitely done shows in the Edinburgh Fringe where this would count as quite a good audience.
Yes. Yeah.
There's nearly 10 of them, and, you know, only some of them are part of the team. So.
I did the smallest audience I've ever played to. I did a gig once in which my mother-in-law turned up.
Oh, God.
Just your mother-in-law?
Just my mother-in-law.
No.
Yeah.
You sure that wasn't an intervention?
No, I'm not sure at all.
Sandy's still
Turned
calling it
into
a
one.
gig.
Yeah. What's the smallest gig you've ever played?
Oh, it was probably a preview just before Edinburgh, and my flatmate from uni, Hazel, turned up, and it was just her, and then these two guys had come to exit flyer my show, but obviously my audience was just Hazel.
Yeah.
And, well, Hazel went home with about 40 flyers for a show.
Yeah.
And both
Yeah.
the guys?
Yeah, and both guys. It was a great night for Hazel.
Yeah.
This does have the feel of, like, you know, when you used to put a play on for your mum and dad in the front room?
Yeah.
It does sort of feel a bit like that.
Only to really, you have David Mitchell,
Yeah.
and Danny Toxic and Alan Davis in it.
Yeah.
So there is canned laughter, but not for us. We never use it on QI. But laugh tracks for TV shows were first created in 1950. And there was an American sound engineer called Charlie Douglas, and he invented what is called a laugh box, L-A-F-F. And it was just loads of different laughs that you could use if you weren't recording in front of a live audience. We're still not going to use them.
And without wishing to blow my own trumpet, because I was only one of a team of contributors, but I had a radio show in the late 90s, and we were so funny that the people at BBC Comedy said we can use those laughs on nearly every other programme we make.
And sell them on. Sell them on.
Fill
You've
them in.
been feeding off that laughter bank.
That was the best compliment I ever had in my whole career. We've kept your laughs, and we use them on other shows.
There's real joy in those laughs. That'll save a load of programmes.
I think most of them were for Kevin Eldon.
It's like, thank God.
But this guy, Charlie Douglas, he monopolised the Hollywood laugh track market, and apparently there was a limited number of laughs, and you could recognise them. They came up repeatedly, the same laughs, over and over again. Some people don't like it, but the research suggests it works in principle. The UCL's Institute of Cognitive Neuroscience, they exposed people to a list of deliberately weak dad jokes. So they ran the jokes with no laugh at all. They ran them with a recording of being told to laugh at nothing in particular, so a fake laugh, and then with another recording of people who were genuinely laughing, so a real laugh, and the ones with the real laughs rated higher than the fake ones, and even the fake ones rated higher than the no laugh. So we're going to have an experiment now. So I'm going to tell you the actual joke that the researchers used, and we'll try it with and without a laugh track. OK? So, what do you call a sleeping dinosaur?
I don't know.
A dino snore. Wow. OK.
I think it might have been the delivery, actually.
Do you think it was my fault?
Yeah.
OK,
We
let's...
should have got a professional comedian to
I
do
should
it.
have. If only I could have found somebody who can tell a joke.
Also, it's not fair. It's not fair to do it in front of comedians because I don't know about you, but I'm just so hardened to watching comedians say jokes. So someone could do the best joke in the world, and I'm like, yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a
so
really
funny.
good joke.
No, I've lost all sense of joy in comedy.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so have most of my fans.
Yes.
But that would be a great way of testing comic
Yeah.
delivery because there's virtually no humour
In
in
that
the
joke.
joke.
No.
Yet it is a joke.
Yes.
People know where they're supposed to laugh.
Yeah.
You've got a terrible joke, though.
Well, I do have this is a joke I tell sometimes
OK.
for radio recordings. I didn't even think of it, and the amount of thought that goes into it is so small that
Yeah.
it is not mine. The joke is, what's a ghost's favourite country?
What is a ghost's favourite country?
France. Did better than Dino Snore,
That did
didn't
way
it?
better than Dino
Yeah, but
Snore.
I think that was a pity laugh.
Yeah.
No,
OK.
I mean,
No,
take
that
what
was
you can
real.
get.
She loved
Yeah.
it.
I think I was more laughing at David's pure commitment to the.
I think
to the
that's it.
punchline.
It's the way he tells
You sort
them.
of delivered yours like, I know this is bad, but
Yeah.
it's for the experiment. Yours was, this can work. I'm willing it to work.
OK, let's try my joke with a laugh track.
OK.
See if that goes better. What do you call a sleeping dinosaur?
I don't know.
A dino snore.
It's much better.
I feel like we're an American sitcom.
Yeah.
David, let's try your joke with a laugh track. OK,
all
go
right.
ahead.
What's a ghost's favourite country?
I don't know.
People just love the whole vibe of it. It's like the best of Ronnie Corbett. You get laughs on the way to
This is what I'm talking about. Women are not as funny as men.
A sleeping dinosaur is a dino snore, and anyone who finds that funny must be having a laugh. Oh, I like the applause. The applause is good. That was nice. Here's a riddle-iculous question. Why is a raven like a writing desk?
That's a quote, isn't it?
It is from what?
I think it sounds sort of Lewis Carroll or something.
It is Lewis Carroll. So it's a question that the Mad Hatter poses in Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. Why is a raven like a writing desk? And it wasn't originally meant to have an answer. And then in a later edition, Carroll included this note: I may as well put on record here what seems to me to be a fairly appropriate answer, because it can produce a few notes, though they are very flat, and it is never put with the wrong end front. So what happened was, it was supposed to be an internal joke, because look at the way he spelt never. He spelt it like that, which is backwards is raven. But the publishers incorrectly corrected the spelling, so the joke was completely missed. And in fact, nobody noticed the error until 1976. But it's a meta riddle, it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, is that really a riddle? It's just a stupid thing
You just
to
find it
say.
annoying.
Yeah, it's just like too smart art.
There was a very popular one in the 1890s, when is a mouse if it spins? To which the answer was, because the higher it gets, the fewer. I mean, they're just ridiculous. They don't really particularly
This
mean
is the
anything.
sort of humour that develops in non-studio audience conditions.
Yes.
Most famous riddle of all must be the riddle of the Sphinx, which is in Oedipus Rex. Does anybody know what the riddle is?
No, I can't remember.
Is
And
it
it's in
something
Peer
about
Gynt as well as...
what walks on four legs in the morning? Is that right?
What has four
Oh,
legs in the
yeah.
morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? To which Richard Osman has suggested a poorly organised darts match. But you needed to get it right, because the Sphinx would strangle and eat anybody who couldn't answer it correctly. So there's some pressure, I think.
Yes.
What if you were like, I don't care?
It'd just eat you.
Fine.
Yeah.
What is it then?
Man who crawls on all fours as a baby, then walks on 2 feet as an adult, and then uses a walking stick in old age.
No.
There's always, like, more than one answer, though, to every riddle, isn't there? Like, the one that goes, I'm tall when young and I'm short when I'm old. What am I?
Yeah. What?
Well, it's a candle. But it could also be, like, my Auntie Sue.
You're right.
Like-
and also, what happens is you get the answer and you think, I can't believe I
Exactly.
paid attention for
No.
that long because I don't care.
It gets really in your head, and
Yeah.
then the payoff is so very little.
You
Yeah.
really need the extra not being eaten by the Sphinx.
Yeah. the pressure.
Worth
Yeah,
bothering.
you need the
Yeah.
stake.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. You need to be pressured into thinking, I'm going to shit myself if I don't get this right.
Yes.
And now for a really risible question. Who was doing the best stand-up 500 years ago?
Was it you?
Well, Ken Dodd must be on your clap song, surely.
I sat next to Ken Dodd at the most glorious dinner one time. We were together for about 4 hours. He didn't stop. He'd just done a show and he just carried on.
Yeah.
It was astonishing.
We saw him like 2 months before he died or something, and it was about 3 hours after the time it was meant to. It was about 1 in the morning.
Oh, yeah, people
at Wimbledon
frequently
Theatre.
coach loads of pensioners with the driver saying, I've got to drive you back to the hotel.
I need to go now.
But we haven't seen the Diddy Men.
It was one of the best evenings of my life.
Was it endearing or was it quite irritating?
Well, I had Julian Fellows on the other side, so it was terribly endearing. Not again.
What is this dinner?
Honestly.
It's a dream.
The best stand-up 500 years ago.
1500s.
So we are talking 16th century.
Luther. Martin Luther.
Well, German priests.
German priest.
So we're in the right...
Like Henry VIII's time, is it?
Yeah, Henry VIII.
Because
Yes.
Germany went a bit crazy in the early 16th.
Well-
I'm not the craziest it's ever gone.
No.
But,
I mean, they've got form.
yeah, but relatively, because there were huge, horrible wars and fighting between the various Protestant and Catholic bits, weren't there?
There were. But this is a proper thing called risus paschalis, so the Easter laugh. And the idea was to put jokes into the Easter sermons. It supposedly reflected a perception that the resurrection was a practical joke played on the devil. by
He's not going
God.
down well.
So look at him. He's fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, we've all had an audience like that. He's going, stop!
So the sort of shtick that they would do from the pulpit, there was a preacher who ate pancakes while doing cuckoo impressions.
Oh, brilliant.
There was one who lay in cow dung and pretended to give birth to a calf while hissing like a goose.
Oh, that's a bit try-hard, isn't
I know, really.
Yeah.
And one church where the priest got a layman to dress in a hood and convinced him he was a priest, which I think that's not as good.
Yeah.
But there were loads of lewd jokes about nuns. There was general bad language and lots of serious-minded churchmen at the time, people like Erasmus. They thought it was a dreadful thing. Erasmus denounced the sermons so full of obscenities that a decent man could not tell them at a dinner party without shame. So this practice of risus paschalis was
Where
banned.
did Jesus stand on obscenities? Is there a view expressed in the Gospels about obscenities?
Well, he must be a bit annoyed his name is used
As an obscenity.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, if everyone was like, oh, Alan Davis off.
Yeah.
Alan Davis.
But no one says Jesus.
Jesus
off.
off.
It counts as taking the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah.
Jesus.
People go, oh,
Jesus
Christ. If someone went, oh, Davis. I wouldn't go, well, I've never been so
Jesus off.
insulted.
We need to start that being a thing.
Yeah.
Just Jesus.
Oh,
Just, is
Jesus
that where
off.
you tell someone to go away but come back 3 days later?
Yeah.
But
it's
was
gonna
he
be a thing.
easily offended?
Who, Jesus?
No, he was pretty...
He's pretty cool. He
Because
made
the
all that...
Anglican Church is so easily offended.
I don't think they are.
No?
Well-
My mum's a vicar. I don't think they are.
She's not easily offended.
No. She
Is that
watches
true?
this.
Is your mum a vicar?
Yeah, my mum's a vicar, yeah.
The elves have just given me a quote from Matthew 5:34, but I tell you not to swear at all. There are lots
No
of...
F words in the Bible, are there? No F words or C words.
Is your mother an Anglican priest?
Yeah, C of E. That's Anglican, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, you've really paid attention while you were growing up. That's...
I get muddled up between all the different denominations and sort of...
But it's good to know which one your mother is, I just
Well,
say.
she's Church of England, so I suppose, yes, that's Anglican. In answer to your question, yes,
Yeah.
my mother is Anglican.
I suppose in a way it is. Yeah. Yeah.
OK. What's improved by extra rhubarb?
Extra custard?
Using rhubarb in a different sense.
Well, rhubarb as in the noise
As
people
in
make
waffle.
to sound like a crowd is talking.
You get an extra point. That
Oh,
is
yeah,
exactly
rhubarb,
right.
rhubarb.
It's actors' jargon for the chat that extras do in the background. Does anybody know why the rhubarb thing started?
Rhubarb,
Must
rhubarb,
be-
rhubarb,
Is that
rhubarb,
from-
rhubarb.
Good sort of noise that sounds like talking.
I think so. I mean,
More talking-y word than
Yeah.
other words.
Sorry, so is it do they do it so that it sounds for a sound thing,
It-
or is it that,
no,
you,
it's
that
the
your
effect.
mouth
Your mouth
looks...
is moving.
When they were doing Japanese prisoner of war films after the war, they were all shot in the UK. They got anyone in who looked remotely Asian because they just needed to fill the background with extras who might be in a Japanese prisoner of war camp. And obviously, these people were from many different countries and nobody spoke Japanese, so they just got them to say, I tie your shoe, you tie my shoe. So
I knew a comedian from Dublin, and he taught me how to do a Northern Irish accent. And you just say, bor, de for, de war.
Body, 40,
Bada follower, bada follower, bada follower.
a good way to say Spice Girls in Glaswegian
Oh, it's so good,
is
isn't
to
it?
say Space Ghetto
In an American accent.
in an American accent.
right, Space Ghetto.
Space Ghetto.
Space Ghetto. Oh, yeah.
Good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, that is good.
Blows your mind.
That blows your mind. Extras are not highly paid individuals, but if you have a large crowd, that's obviously extremely expensive. So lots of films use something else now. What do you think they use instead of hiring extras for? If you've got a massive crowd scene.
Computer graphic people.
No, it's inflatable dolls.
Oh,
No.
Yeah.
Like what you get on a hen party.
No, they are. Look, this is the film Seabiscuit. This is you know, the one about the horse race.
I'm not a sex doll. I'm an extra.
So genuinely, that's easier. Blowing up a load of sex dolls
Well, apparently
is easier than computers.
you can get a crowd
Or
of 10,000
Yeah.
in a truck, and they can be reused.
I mean, I'm sure they've got pumps.
Yeah, I don't think it's somebody going.
But still.
Mind you, if you were an extra and you could send an inflatable version of yourself, you'd be foolish not to.
I think I've been on panel shows where I might as well have.
Sorry, we're supposed to just go. No, no.
Not this one.
There are lots of films that it's been used in. I think The King's Speech was another one.
I thought they always CGI'd them nowadays.
Very expensive.
I thought it was sort of just like copy and paste.
I thought they used crowds from Alan Davis's show in the 90s.
Yeah.
They just used them as cutaways
Paste
for
them in.
Gladiator.
If it was my film, they'd just copy and paste Hazel,
Hazel
over and
over
over
and
and
over
over and
again.
over in the background.
So, from the height of ridiculousness to the ridiculousness of height, how will short people save the world?
Is it by going on a baking show and becoming a national treasure?
Ah, extra point.
There we go. We got it.
Eating less?
Yes, it is sort of to do
Breathing
with-
less.
It is. Yes, it's to do with all of those.
Breathing less, did you say?
Yeah.
It's got to be better, basically, overall, because broadly speaking, a short person functions like a medium-height person or a tall person and takes less fuel and uses up less space.
That is
Yes.
exactly right.
They'll be the heroes of the moment
yeah.
with the stockpiling.
Yeah.
They're not going for the
less-
top shelves. They
No,
can't get there.
No, exactly.
In
If we all die out, it's my lot's fault.
Yeah. Are you very tall?
Yeah.
So there's a theory called reventropy, which is that humans ought to be shorter. There's a guy called Thomas Samaras. In 1994, he wrote a book called The Truth About Your Height, and he argued that people were getting taller because they had excessive protein in their diet, and this was leading to much greater consumption of everything. So you needed more land for farming, you get more waste, you get more pollution, and in order to preserve resources, really, you need to control the size of human beings, and that being shorter is good for you because it's... Look at that, that's me and Richard Osman. Being short is good for you, it slows ageing. Shorter people do have longer lifespans.
Really?
Yeah. So
You
call
hit
it...
your head a lot less, though, probably.
That's true. I've never hit my head on a doorway, not once.
But you've probably caught the corner of a table a few times.
and the lid on a toilet.
Yes.
Maisie, how tall are you?
5'11".
Do you have, like, strict rules about people you go out with or marry or whatever who is taller or shorter than you? Because my tall girl friends all refuse to go out with somebody who's shorter than me.
I think shorter men can be really, like, attractive, but I would just feel cumbersome, I reckon. My boyfriend is 6 foot.
And was that a deal breaker, as it were? You had to...
I'd love to say no, but it absolutely was.
I like the shallowness of it. I
I'm
think.
really shallow.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. I think
Very
that's-
tall, very shallow.
Yeah, I think that's marvellous.
I'm like a candle.
Yeah, yeah. There was another lonely voice campaigning against something the rest of us take for granted. There's a man called Roger Babson. He was an American stock market guru. He was the guy in the Q series that invented little hammers so that typists could wear mittens and work outside.
He what?
Yeah, he was obsessed with fresh air, and he got his secretaries to work outside on typewriters, and their hands were too cold, so he invented a series of little hammers so they could wear mittens while typing. Do you think that's crazy? His real passion was that he campaigned against gravity.
Oh, wow.
So he had a couple of very disturbing events. His sister and then later his grandson died from drowning, and he devoted his considerable fortune to fighting against the evil old man gravity, which he argued killed millions of people every year. And he paid 3 investigators to sit permanently in the US Patent Office, scanning incoming applications for anti-gravity inventions, anything, costumes, shields, whatever it might be, so that could be used to insulate people from gravity, because he hoped one day to eliminate airplane accidents.
There was drownings in his
Yeah.
film, and he blamed
Gravity.
gravity not water.
No, he didn't have an anti-water thing.
Yeah.
In fact, he set up the
It's
gravity...
gravity that pulls you under, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that the water's trying to help them.
If there was no gravity, you'd float. And also the water would be
If
in
there
the air.
wasn't gravity, the water would be in the air.
Yeah.
Short people are just better. Fact. Why can't a robot work out how to tick a box marked "I'm not a robot"?
That's a very good question. Oh, also, why can't it tell what a traffic light looks like?
I don't know. I'm not a robot. I don't think I'm a robot. But I find friendly text messages stressful.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of the signs of a robot.
So it doesn't make any sense. The elves quote a letters page of Viz. Surely robots can figure out how to tick a box on a website saying, I am not a robot. I've seen Terminator 2, and that one could fly a fucking helicopter. So, ticking the box is not the point. It's how you behaved before you ticked the box that is analysed. So, to be honest, I can't tell you all the details because they keep it secret because they don't want people trying to cheat the test. But broadly speaking, you tick the box and it prompts the website to check your browsing history. So let us say, for example, just before you tick the box, you watched a couple of cat videos, you, I don't know, liked a tweet about Greta Thunberg, you checked your Gmail account before you got down to work. All of that makes them think that you must be a human, and checking the box can even spur it to analyse the way in which you moved your mouse across the screen.
No.
It's slightly spooky, I think. Essentially, when you are clicking I am not a robot, you are instructing the site to have a look at your data and decide for itself. If the machine is not sure, that's when it directs you to click on, I don't know, pictures of fire hydrants, aren't there, and sort of secondary
So if that comes up, it means that your browsing history...
It's slightly worrying.
It looks
Well,
like you're a
been lots of
robot.
So if you
Like you're in a
regularly...
Russian warehouse.
Yeah.
If you regularly clear your browsing history or you browse in incognito mode, then it
Why
will
would you
definitely
do
help.
that?
That
why
is
would you
not
do
the
that?
sign of a robot, that's the sign of a wanker.
Now, for a ridiculous loser, what can we say about Mr. Irrelevant 1991? It's a sought-after title in some ways.
Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Is there some sort of like a paradox? It's like being the most boring person. Well, that's something interesting if you're the most boring person. So
Yeah.
the second most boring person is more boring than the most boring person, which makes them the most boring person, which is something interesting about them. Which makes
I
them...
love that. I think that's fantastic. All I can say with confidence is that he was wanky, which is his name, Mr. Wanky.
Mr. Wanky.
Yeah, Mr.
Well,
Wanky.
that's so relevant.
Yeah, so every year in US football, professional teams choose new players from that year's college leavers, so it's called the draft. And the last placed team from the previous year gets the first choice. The idea is to even out the team's prospects. And so it's not like you can just buy the top players. They try and keep it kind of level.
the opposite of the Premier League, really.
Yeah, so the player chosen last from the pool, so the least sought-after player in that year is called Mr. Irrelevant. And it's a rather dubious honour. It fell to Larry Wanky in 1991.
I was really hoping he had a better first name, but Larry Wanky
is not good, is it?
What would a better first name be?
Willie.
Barry.
Willie is better.
Willie Wanky.
Wee Welly.
But they get a
Willy
prize.
Wanky.
They get flown out for Irrelevant Week with their family to California, and they have, you know...
Introducing the Wankies.
I
Let's
think
have a
so.
warm round of applause for the Wankies as they join us.
But it's a thing in sport. The last place competitor in the Tour de France, for example, since 1920, been awarded the Lanterne Rouge. But there's so much publicity with being that person that people want to be it. When they know they're not going to win, and they know they're right at the back, they sometimes hide in barns and things to
When
make
I've watched
sure.
the London Marathon, there's so much attention on who wins it, but I am interested often as to who is the last person.
Yeah, like 5 days later.
Yeah.
And a man in an iron lung
It's
finally rolls over the finish line.
But there's loads of wonderful things that you get a salted anchovy if you're the loser of the Siena Palio horse race. And it used to be that you got a wooden spoon at Cambridge if you got the worst honours degree in the maths tripos.
No.
This is the last one ever awarded to the magnificently named Cuthbert Lempriere Holthouse.
Who then went on to become Prime Minister.
He became an Anglican vicar, which is like being in the Church of England.
And so what, he got the worst score on his degree?
He got the worst degree. In fact, they made the spoon out of a rowing oar because he blamed it on the fact that he spent so much time rowing.
It's amazing that they actually gave degrees to borrowers.
Well, also, nobody is going to ask a question about who came first in the maths tripos, right? It's just so lovely. I think it's much more interesting to talk about Cuthbert.
Yeah.
And now for the bit where our panel accidentally fall into a lens grinder and make spectacles of themselves. General ignorance, fingers on buzzers, please. Watch this. Have a look at the screen. That text has got the entire answer to the question. Can anybody pick out any of it? OK, it's going at 1,500 words per minute. What do you call someone who is able to read at that speed?
Fast.
My mother-in-law.
Fast is good, yes. Is your mother-in-law very fast?
She goes on holiday. She literally can read a book a day.
Can she understand it?
Yeah, she's incredible. It's insane how good she is at it.
Yeah, I mean, you can, in principle, train yourself to read pretty quickly. But speed reading, that they used to talk about, it was a thing that people thought you could be taught. In fact, there was an American proponent, Evelyn Wood. She was an educator from Utah, and she made a fortune, these reading dynamic workshops. She said you could increase the speed of reading 3 times, maybe as much as 10 times. And she had hundreds of outlets across the United States, the 1950s and 60s. And it was partly because JFK had a reputation for being able to read 1,200 words per minute. Nixon and Carter, both presidents, both endorsed it.
1,200 words a minute?
Well, there are various
That's
techniques.
4 pages of a novel.
It's slightly mad. One of the techniques is reading down the middle of the page rather than...
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you wonder as a writer why you bothered with the words at the side. The other thing is to eliminate sub-vocalisations in your head. Reading aloud will slow you down.
I think I'm quite a slow reader because I worry I've missed a bit.
Yeah.
And I'm forever going back and doing a paragraph again. And
But you're worrying about the comprehension, and that is the thing about speed reading, is that probably people are reading quite quickly, but they're not really fully taking in all the detail. But the technique now of speed reading has been pretty much debunked. It is not a thing.
What did it say, that fast-moving thing?
Everything I just told you.
So your all of that was just...
Yeah,
Wow.
everything I've just told you. But basically, people get to the gist but not the nuance if they're speed reading.
so they sort of go, well, there's something about tigers in that
Yeah.
paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one's all
Yeah.
about cheese.
Exactly, I've got it. Tigers and cheese, I've got
I love
it.
that book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm afraid speed readers are missing the point. Who made the most expensive and best-sounding violins ever?
Stradivarius.
That's my boy. Took one for the team.
Yeah, what a guy.
Marks and Spencer.
Yamaha.
Sports Direct.
It was a guy called Bartolomeo Guarneri. He was the grandson of one of Stradivarius' apprentices. So Stradivarius did make beautiful violins, but this guy has the edge. In 2010, one of his went for more than $18 million. This $18 million violin is on loan to a brilliant woman called Anne Akiko Mayers. I think we have a little tiny bit of her playing.
That sounds like a normal violin to me.
Well, so that is the thing about it, because they did a test to see whether people wanted to buy one of those very expensive ones or whether they wanted a modern one. They got 21 professional violinists to play in a dimly lit room wearing goggles, and only 38%, so 8 out of the 21, chose to take the old ones, and the rest chose the modern instruments. So not necessarily... Actually, does it sound any better?
That's like those taste tests when people think they're drinking some incredibly expensive wine, but it's just from Aldi.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 2016, a violin made from Winston Churchill's cigar box was sold for $6,500.
No.
Didn't have any strings, but
Oh,
probably
God.
smelled nice. And finally, it's time to reveal this week's scores. In last place, oh, it's a noble thing, with -7, it's Maisie. In third place with -6, it's Alan. In second place with -3, David. I know, with 1 whole point.
What?
Ridiculous number of points. It's Holly. It only remains for me to laugh in the faces of Maisie, David, Holly and Alan and thank them all for their good humour. And I leave you with these words from Dostoevsky. There is no idea and no fact that could not be vulgarised or shown in a ridiculous light. And that pretty much explains QI's existence. Good night. The show you've just seen was recorded without an audience because of social distancing rules. Next week, we're back to normal. So see you then. And in the meantime, mind how you go.